One of the things that we noticed was that there were some teams that were doing very well. They had good relationships with their clients, and they also seemed to understand what it took to put together a successful sales strategy. So one of the things that we wanted to do was to find out what were some of the attributes of that strategy, and how then could we replicate that across other organizations. So we looked at the relationships, and then we looked at what do good salespeople do.
We learned that at IBM, as in any organization, there are very high-performing salespeople. And we could, in looking at their data, there were salespeople who would, regardless of the economic times, put up very large numbers, beating their quotas and so on. And we had an opportunity to meet with some of them, and my colleague Beth Walker and I used to sit around and say, I wonder what it is about those folks that makes them different, that leads to this superior performance.
As we draw on some research and theory in psychology and social psychology that looks at how communication patterns within an organization and within the client organization influence effectiveness, and how a salesperson actually thinks about their customers and thinks about their competitors, how that influences their effectiveness. So we brought those two streams of research together and used that as a framework to guide this particular research project.
They put together a team that included experienced professors and doctoral students, and that team then met with executives in our organization, and they also met with some of the sales teams to understand, first of all, our environment. So they took a lot of time to make sure that they really understood our organization, how we worked, and then they put together a proposal which they then reviewed with our executive team.
For IBM, in this case, we actually had 2 PhD students involved in this project. They each were answering a slightly different research question, but for each student in the study, we examined the communication patterns and thought processes of 60 different salespeople, either account executives or sales specialists. And we looked at high performers, moderate performers, and lower performers in each case, and did an in-depth analysis of who they talked to within their organization and within the client organization, and how they thought about either customers or competitors.
The experience of working with the research study team was really wonderful. The team was energized, they were excited, they were very curious, and one of the things that I always remember doing before I had a meeting with them was to just prepare myself for a lot of the great questions that they were going to ask, and I really enjoyed working with the team. They were fabulous.
It's led to publications. We developed a paper for Sloan Management Review on competitive cognition, one that's been reviewed in the Wall Street Journal, and it's gotten additional play beyond that paper. In addition to that, Beth Walker and I developed a paper on sales effectiveness that was contributed to a business-to-business journal.
Once we received the results, one of the first things we did was we reviewed them with executives and came up with a specific action plan to integrate the results. We developed a plan that incorporated education, and we changed some processes. And I think that's probably the biggest impact, is the processes that we changed were really focused on increasing our sales. And so we made sure that we clearly understood the recommendations, and through changing those processes, we're able to deal with some barriers to our sales success.
The crucial benefit for academic research is if we can get together with practitioners and fine-tune our research question, because I think it's that joint collaboration that leads to better research.